Welcome, everybody. It's good to see all your beautiful faces here. And we are thrilled that you made the choice to make it today to the Grand Connection Community Network. Susan and I created the Grand Connection just when COVID hit. We were at the Grand Canyon looking at this vast potential. And we looked at each other and thought, when we get back, we have to do something to help business people because they are going to be stuck. They don't know how to navigate digitally online, and we have to be a part of the solution. So we're here to serve and be in service to you, to support you, to connect with like-minded businesses and build those meaningful business relationships. And we're here to bring in expert speakers to teach you how to navigate your business online, learn new skills, strategies, and techniques. And the mastermind breakout rooms give you an opportunity to actually move forward, get out of your comfort zone, and collaborate with other people with these new skills. So we welcome you to connect, create, and collaborate. This is our 11th event since we started, and we have the most people registered today. We have 114 people registered. So we are incredibly excited and thrilled that we had that many people register today. Also, just a hands up, who is from Canada here? Just hands up, we have people from all over. Hands up, awesome. Great, give us a wave. And what about the US? Who is from the US here?
Yeah, I'll stop the share so we can all see. Who's from the US?
Yeah, there. Oh, great, great, great. Looking at all of you. Wonderful.
Whoa.
Wonderful. So we can start.
And anyone outside of the US?
Yeah, anywhere else.
Oh, you're here.
Oh, excellent. Where are you from?
Scotland.
Oh my goodness.
Bonnie, Scotland.
Oh, goosebumps. I call them truth bumps. How awesome is that? Welcome.
Well,
that is just
Enrico,
incredible.
you're from Scotland as well.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Me
Say
too.
hello.
I'm here.
Yay.
Hello.
Look at this. I mean, is this not absolutely magnificent that we can connect and collaborate all over the world on this one platform? It's just a miracle. Absolutely love it. Now, this will be recorded on Facebook Live. So please go to our Facebook group, The Grand Connection, after the event, and all the recordings from the previous presentations and expert speakers are in there. So you can resource that, and there's lots of valuable information in there too. So we welcome you to join our Facebook group. We're thrilled to have Michelle Abraham be our speaker today. She is an international speaker, podcast host, and podcast producer. Her team has launched over 100 podcasts in the last 12 months, and she manages 50 shows a week. Amazing. Wow. She's the co-founder of the Canadian Podcast Network and mypodcastcoach.com. Michelle truly demonstrates that you can achieve your dream lifestyle business. She's 100% online business. She's living off the grid and even taking her kids to school by boat. Wow. So Michelle is zooming in from her lakeside oasis to share with us today. Michelle, I welcome you, and take it away, Michelle.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Carolyn and Susan, for having me here today. Hi, everyone. So great to see so many familiar faces and so many new faces here. I'm just super thrilled to be here. I'm going to share my screen here in a second. So today we're talking about the power of podcasting to grow your business. And so I'm thrilled to be here at the Grand Connection, guys. What an amazing turnout. You guys are in the right place. So we are in the golden age of podcasting right now. Podcasting has been around for a long time, but we are so still in the infancy stages of podcasting. There's tons of room for growth. There's tons of room for you and your message and your story here. And I'm going to share with you today a bunch of different ways that you can use podcasting to grow your business. Okay, so you may want to listen up to this part. So in a world where we live, time and attention is our most valuable asset. Okay, so there's no other platform right now that even comes close to comparing to podcasting as far as having our ideal listeners' time and attention. So what they're saying is on average, people will listen or see something on Facebook for 18.2 seconds, YouTube, 4 minutes and 20 seconds, Instagram, 26 seconds. But in podcasting, your listeners are going to listen to you for about 20 minutes, guys. I just want to make sure that you're hearing that. And I want to make sure that that grabs your attention. 20 minutes is a long time for your listeners to be listening to you, and you have them they have you in their earbuds. Okay. So that's why I am super excited about podcasting. And did you also know, this is something that's new. Google is now ranking podcasting or podcast episodes higher than YouTube. So as you can see here, Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn, it's actually now indexing individual episodes with the SEO. Okay, so now they're going to start introducing voice recognition as well. You guys, this is huge. You can see when you Google someone's name, the YouTube channels pop up really high. Well, now podcasting is also going to be doing that as well. So eventually, you're going to need a podcast to get heard out there in this space. So I just want to say you're in the right company. My team's launched over 137 podcasts in the last 18 months. I just updated that this morning because I was like, I think we've done a lot more than that. We were just nominated number 15 in the Podcast Magazine's Top 50 Moms in Podcasting. That's cool, but what was even more cool is that 2 of our other clients were also here, and another client was on page 6. Or they were number 6. So it was really cool to be there with our clients as well. So a couple other great things about what we've been doing. Kevin Harrington says, he's the original shark on Shark Tank. He says that Amplifyou is our North America's top podcast management company, which was super cool. We have a very nice recommendation from James Malinchuk, who is on the ABC TV show Secret Millionaire. And then I just got nominated as an Entrepreneur of the Year by Business from the Heart. So I'm really excited to have those accolades this year. Just going to show you that we have been doing a lot in the podcasting space, but I want to know about you. So have you started a podcast, and what is it about? So can you put that in the chat today, guys? I want to know so I can go and follow you, subscribe to your show, and follow your journey and what your podcast is about. If you don't have a podcast yet, no problem. We're also here as guests. So I also want to see in the chat that if you haven't started one yet, then maybe do you have plans to start one, or are you looking to be a guest? So I'd love to know a little bit more about that in the chat. So what we're going to cover today, we have 20 minutes to cover a whole lot of stuff. So if you feel like I'm going fast, that's why. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why podcasting, what podcasting is all about, a little bit about my story, the 3 biggest opportunities in podcasting today, the top 4 barriers that are stopping smart entrepreneurs from launching their podcast, and the 5 powerful ways to amplify your influence of podcasting. And then I'm going to save some time for some questions. Then I think we're going to do some more masterminding, which is awesome. Love this format, guys. So my goal for you is to not be this guy. He's overwhelmed. He's looking at the technology involved in podcasting. He's thinking about all the things that are required to get a podcast up and going, and he's banging his head on the computer. My goal for you is not to be that guy. We're going to break it down and make it real simple. So there's really 3 opportunities for entrepreneurs in podcasting. We're going to talk about 2 of them for the most part today. So that's being a host, being a guest, or being a podcast manager. Being a guest on a show is great. Now, this is like a real radio scenario where I went into their studio to record, but it is for a podcast. So being a guest on a podcast is amazing because you get to share your message on platforms that already have audiences, right? So that is a really great way to share your message, really great way for you to get to know podcast hosts, and a really great way for you to get out there and really shine and share your message. Number 2 opportunity is being a host. So some advantages of being a host, it's like giving yourself a media card. So now you have a reason to reach out to people that maybe you didn't have an opportunity to connect with before, because you have something to offer them, like a platform for them to come on as a guest and speak in front of your audience. Number 2 is that you also get to have control and creative control over all the content. So you get to say what you want to say, how you want to say it. You're in control of that show. So it's like having your own show. If you ever, as a kid, wanted to be a talk show host or wanting to be like Oprah, this is your chance. You get to have your own show. And this opportunity would be for you. And we do all three in our business. And what we specialize in is that podcast management, where we help people become the experts, be the experts in their space, focus on the content creation while we take care of all the rest of it. So we help you launch your show and then we manage it on a weekly basis. So you record, we do the rest, we get it out there and put it on all 30 plus platforms out there for you. So today we really want to know, what can podcasting do for you? So we're going to talk a little bit about how you can share your story. It really positions you as being an expert. It is my favorite connection tool outside of coming to meetings like this. Having a podcast, I really use it as a networking tool, a reason for me to have a deeper conversation with someone, and a reason for me to invite people out to come and have a call. Instead of going for coffee, I just invite them to come for an interview because then I really get to know them. And before the microphone, press record, and after the recording stops, those conversations there is where a lot of business can happen. So even if you're not thinking about podcasting as wanting to get your message out to tons of people, using it as a networking tool in your business is also a great strategy. When you have a show, when people come and listen to you, that like, know, and trust factor is huge. So you're actually cutting down the amount of time it takes someone to become a customer, because when they come to your podcast, they can listen to you, hear your stories, get to know you, and then they're ready to make a purchase from you or become a customer a lot quicker. It's a very intimate space that you're in. You're inside their head, literally, with their earbuds. And so this is a valuable space to be in front of the right audience. So is it okay if I share a little bit of my story? I hope that's okay. I won't take up too much time on this, but it is important. So a lot of the things you do, you heard in my introduction, I live off the grid. We take a boat to our car. I've done a lot of crazy, amazing things in my life, but all started with an accident in Europe. So I was living as a nanny in Switzerland just after I graduated high school, when two of my girlfriends from high school came to visit me. And we were out one night looking at the lights of Monaco. It was beautiful. And I wasn't feeling great, so I headed back to the hotel. A few hours later, we got a call, and it turns out that one of our friends was killed by a train that night. So she was 19 years old. Her story stopped that night. She doesn't get to go out and do like this, like talk about her story, share her message with the world. It ended there. So for me, that really propelled the rest of my life up until this day, where I'm really passionate about helping people get their story heard and their message out in front of people. She didn't get a chance to do that. So a lot of the things I did in my life was because of that moment. You don't have very long to live. You don't know how long you're going to live for. And you have a story that's going to change people's lives. So you need to get that story out there. So I just wanted to share that with you because that's really why I do what I do. But my real podcast journey started when I became a mom. And I was like, I love being a mom, but I was also a business owner. And my poor business brain was suffering just a little bit when I became a mom. There's a lot of goo goo gaga going on the floor, and I loved my little guy. But I turned to the Apple TV, looked at this little purple button, and I thought, hey, I could maybe get some education in business while we were playing goo goo gaga on the floor. And sure enough, I turned into the podcast app. In there, I found these really great shows about The Eventual Millionaire by Jamie Tardy and Online Marketing Made Easy with Amy Porterfield. It just started. This was back in 2012. And also Entrepreneur on Fire with John Lee Dumas also just started then. And I was like, wow, so I can listen to this on my TV. I can listen to it in my car. Holy smokes, I can put my earbuds in and take my son for a walk. I can still be a good mom, but also get my business brain going. I was like, I love this podcasting thing. But nobody knew what the heck I was talking about. So it wasn't for a few more years later. I was like, I really want to have a podcast. I was a listener for a long time. I really wanted to have my own podcast, and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. Then I had an idea. I want to take my family on a trip RVing down through the States, but I knew nothing about podcasting. So I started a virtual summit where we interview people in the RV space who are out there living full-time in their RV. And I turned part of that into a podcast episode and the other half into a virtual summit. So that made me really fall in love with podcasting. This is great. I've got a virtual summit. I sold the recordings from the virtual summit from the podcast, actually funded our entire trip. We were spending about 5 months RVing from Vancouver down to California, Arizona, Nevada, all the way down through the southern US. So it was so fun, and we had such a great time as a family. And I have to thank podcasting for that ability to do that. So now we have several shows. I work on a Blissful Parenting show. Amplifyou is our own show. We've got the Canadian Podcast Network show going out. And now we have one called My Podcast Coach about to launch soon. And what's cool about podcasting is that you can look on your Apple phone and be like, hey, wow, my podcast is right next to Tony Robbins. How cool is that? You know, it's kind of a neat way. It's like you're part of the media now, and you have this opportunity to really have your show out there in the world. So my family, we live off the grid, like Carolyn mentioned. We live on the boat access side of Ruby Lake on the Sunshine Coast, where I drive my kids to school. That is a very true statement. Drive them to the school bus by boat. And we are able to do that because of podcasting, because I've created a business that's online. It's completely virtual. And now we can have the lifestyle and the business that we like. But I wouldn't be able to do that without podcasting. So podcasting's allowed us to be able to be an international business, all from my house on a small lake on the Sunshine Coast. So here's some of the shows we work with. You might recognize Val over here. She's here today. We work with so many heart-centered, amazing entrepreneurs. You'll see Adele up here and Janice down here. And, oh, wait, what's this show? This is a new one coming out soon. So I can't wait. It's been awesome working with Susan and Carolyn. They're launching the Grand Potential soon.
We're
and
very excited, Michelle.
Their show is going to be awesome. I can't wait. And it's going to be a really great way to just have more exposure for the Grand Connection. These meetings are amazing, drawing so many amazing people from all over the world. I saw my friend Miko is here from Australia too. And we've got people from Scotland today. It's amazing. Great community. So I want to tell you guys the 4 biggest things that stop people from, and especially smart and savvy entrepreneurs, from starting a podcast. These guys, you know, it stops people right in their tracks. Carolyn and Susan have blasted through these, by the way. They're just like on a mission. They know what they're doing. They're like, let's just go. But I've seen it time and time again. And the reason I really talk about these is this is what stopped me from starting my podcast for 4 years. Guys, I could have been right up there with Amy Porterfield and John Lee Dumas starting their podcast at the same time, but I procrastinated. I had this fear, and it wasn't necessarily a fear of it was a fear of being heard, or it wasn't a fear that no one was going to listen. It was a fear of being heard. And so we get both. We hear people that are fearful of being heard, fearful of, you know, what does that mean? Was this having a podcast out there? Like everyone's going to know everything about me? And it doesn't have to be that way. Fear is, there's nothing to be fearful for. You're going to attract the right people to your audience. Your story needs to be told. If your story could just help one person change their life, oh, wouldn't that make it all worthwhile, right? And that's what podcasting does. It really helps you get in front of the people that need to hear your story. The second one we hear all the time, and I had this fear too. I thought we needed all this equipment like you see at the top picture, but really actually what you need is a microphone and a laptop and Zoom. Really Zoom, we do everything on Zoom. It's not that difficult. There are tons of ways that you can do it, but if we just get the most simplest form that we can, it's a laptop or a computer and Zoom. And a microphone is great for sound quality. And so we have this little saying in Amplifyou: if you are not embarrassed by your first few episodes, you waited too damn long to get them out there in the world. So perfectionism stops people in their track. They can't figure out the cover art. They can't pick out the music. They stall on getting that first episode going. And they get themselves all worked up in there. So if they just take it back down, put it out there, you can always improve on it, right? And you go back to anyone's, you guys, any podcast, even Tony Robbins, his first ones didn't sound very good compared to how they sound now. So just get going. And the other thing is time. So in my head, I had worked up that it was going to take me so much time and energy to really get my podcast going. And in actual fact, it wasn't that much. It just needed to figure out what the system was and to get it going. And guys, if this is a real fear, just reach out to someone who's already got a podcast, someone who's already done it. There's tons of free resources out there, or reach out to me and then we can help you with that. It doesn't take as much time. You can have a great podcast as a weekly show, And recording, I record most of my episodes in one day a month, and it makes it so much more easy to fit into your already busy entrepreneur lifestyle. But the benefits outweigh all that time it takes. So here's what we know about podcasting. We just hit the 1 million podcast mark, guys. That's huge, 1 million podcasts out there. But just to bring it into a perspective, there are still more blog posts posted in the last 3 days than there are podcasts out there live right now. So there's still a huge opportunity. Think back to blogging in 2014 maybe, or 2008, when blogging was a huge thing. That's where podcasting is today. There's still tons of opportunity and tons of space. What we know about podcasting guests, or podcast listeners, sorry, I should say, is that they are very loyal, they're affluent, and they're educated. 80% listen to all or more of the podcast episode. And like I mentioned earlier in my slides, you're not going to get that time and attention from any other platform right now. So they also, average podcast listener listens to about 7 shows a week. So Robin, she's a parenting podcaster here in BC. She ran a contest, set 150 entries that helped her show hit #1 in the parenting podcast on her launch week in iTunes. Janice, she got a huge speaking gig from a national conference from her podcast interview. We just asked her, she's here today. And Candy, she just launched her show last week, but she says, you guys have saved me 40 hours this week and a lot of gray hair. So I love what she says about that. And I need to update my slides because Alicia's here today too. And she just launched a really great show called That's My Rooney. So I love all the people that we get to work with. It's so much fun seeing them amplify their influence using podcasting. And so here's some of the ways that I've kind of touched on already, but I just want to show you. One, it builds your network, guys. I use it as a connection tool. Use it to be able to collaborate and connect with other people and talk to other people. So great. Use it to position yourself as an expert. So if you're applying for a speaking gig and someone has a podcast and the other person doesn't, chances are they're going to pick the person who has the podcast to come and be the speaker. You do a lot of speaking. Plus, it gives people a chance to already hear you on your show. You can repurpose your content. So from our 4 episodes a month, we get like 50 pieces of content, you guys. It's so great. You can use audio, video, YouTube, get it out on all your social platforms. We use audiograms. You can write a book, all sorts of really great things from your podcast. Number 4, people already are getting to know, like, and trust you through your podcast. That means they're pre-qualifying themselves to be buyers by the time they're ready. So they already have this like, know, and trust factor with you. They are already, if they're actually coming to the next step with you, they want to work with you from a listener point of view. The next step is, how do I get more of this host? This host is amazing. I love them. I want to work with them. I feel like I know them. I know because when I saw Pat Flynn at a conference one time, I wanted to give him a hug because I felt like I know him and I knew him so well, but he didn't know me. I'm a listener, but it's great because then I was ready to purchase anything he said to buy, I buy, right? Because I trust him so much. And number 5, creating a movement. A lot of you guys have these huge messages to get out there in the world. By creating a podcast, you can get people involved in something, get them to create a movement with your show, right? So Susan and Carolyn are doing the grand potential, right? So they're creating a movement with connection and collaboration. This is something that people want to join and want to be a part of. That is what makes a great podcast. So my client Ryan, he's got 250,000 downloads on a sold out coaching program with a wait list, which is great. Emily has a show just on anxiety, which is great. It's her #1 ROI in her business, she says. She gets 10 discovery calls in the month of May from her podcast. So today we talked about what's podcasting all about. I told you a little bit about my story, the 3 biggest opportunities in podcasting, the 4 things that stop people, and the 5 ways to amplify your influence using podcasts. And I want to make sure we have time for questions, but I just want to leave you guys with this. You all have a story. It's an important message that needs to get out in the world. If you change one person's life, you're doing so good in the world. This was my friend Cecilia, who didn't make it past her 19th birthday. Guys, don't let that be you. Make sure that you share your story with the world. So what is your story? What's your message? So I would love to work with you guys. If you have a message and you have a powerful story, you have a business, you have some way that you want to get out there in the world. Guys, just because I love the Grand Connection so much, I love Carolyn and Susan, I've offered to do this for $19.97 instead of $24.97. It's an Amplifyou launch your podcast in 30 days. If you use the secret code Grand Connection. So reach out to me. I'm here, and I want to help you guys get your show up and launched, and so that you can amplify your message with podcasting and grow your business. So I have 2 free gifts for you guys today. Go to mypodcastcoach.com/gifts. And their free guide, 5 steps to create predictable podcast profits on autopilot. And the second one, that's done by one of my partners in My Podcast Coach, Evans Petman. And the second one is 7 places where podcasters search for the perfect guest. I know we're talking about that today. So that's a really big one. 7 places podcasters will look for guests. It's free directories. You can go put your name on there and your profile. And then reach out and connect with me, guys. I'm here the rest of the afternoon. And feel free to connect. And thank you, Susan and Carolyn, so much for having me. I love what you guys are up to here. It's just so amazing.
Thank you, Michelle. And, I just love your perspective and purpose and passion for podcasting. And it just inspires me, as I know it does everyone else here. And your why is very meaningful. So I'd like to open up the floor here. I know that we have hosts of podcasts. I know that we have many people on the Zoom call today that are interested in being guests. And I invite you to unmute yourself and feel free to ask any questions to Michelle at this time in regards to being a guest or setting up your own show, creating your own podcast. So feel free to ask away. Oh, go ahead, Karen.
Oh, yay.
I can.
Hey, I have a question. Oh, right, get your crap together. My bad. But what's the first thing I should do if I want to start my podcast?
Yeah, good question, Karen. So one of the first things you should probably do is take a look at who you want to talk to. It's really important in podcasting that you speak directly to that one person. So it's not like, hey guys, how's everyone doing today? That sounds different than like, hey girl, how are you? Like, I know how you're feeling when this happens, right? That's a totally different kind of thing. So I know, Karen, you've got it pretty specific who that you're wanting to speak to people who have serious illnesses, that are invisible. They may not see that there. So you've got that pretty dialed in. So I would say the next step for you would be to create like a compelling introduction in and out, like about how you're going to hook them into coming to listen to your show.
For Michelle,
Hi, David.
there's so many people that are rising above the noise level. Everyone's rising above the noise level. How do you rise above the noise level that everyone else is rising above?
Awesome question.
All these formulas about how to do it, everyone's using the same formula. So how do you get beyond that?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's where you need to break it down. So everyone over here is rising above the noise, but they're chasing after the hundreds, thousands of downloads. What you need to do is focus your attention on those couple hundred people. So I have clients that say, I only had 250 downloads this podcast episode. Guys, if you have a 250 people in your living room, you'd be so happy. So keeping it in perspective. So, there's truth to that 1,000 truth man. So what you're trying to do is build a relationship with those really impactful people that are then going to then want to work with you further. So one really important thing is focus on the relationship and the content. And 2, second step is focusing on bringing them into your world. So invite them for a conversation, invite them to work with you, invite them into a podcast group. And that's where you're going to grow way above all the other noise out there.
But my question is, the other day I just had this idea. It would be nice for me to be interviewed by a podcaster where we're interviewing a family affected by dementia, and I help them on the call at that time. But I don't know if that's even possible. That's like Oprah having Dr. Oz and Dr. Oz helping people. So I don't know if that's even an idea.
Absolutely. I love it. I think that's a really unique idea. And I think that's, to go back to David's question too, something that you need to do to make your show stand out that's unique, right? So I am the Blissful Parenting podcast that I'm on. I don't own Blissful Parenting. I'm just the host. So in something in that scenario, to grab a podcaster, it would still be maybe your show, but you could have a host that would facilitate the interaction between you then helping a family through a scenario. I think that's a great idea. One, it helps you amplify, like showing you do what you do, which is really great. So it's seeding then working with you in the future.
As a guest, I'm a financial coach and I would like to get on podcasts as a guest to tell my story of how I became one. So how do I reach out to podcast hosts, or how do I know who would be interested in listening to my story?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got to think about who's their audience, right? And is their audience going to be someone that you are going to resonate, they're going to resonate with you. So first of all, make sure that the audience is a match. Second of all, podcasters hang out all sorts of places. That free gift I offer, there are 7 directories where there's tons of podcasters on there, also podcasting guests. And then 2, make sure that your story is compelling. So you're right, like what you need to really figure out why someone would want to have you as a guest. So what are the things their audience is going to learn and get out of the interview with you? What are some actionable steps? So if you can have that all prepared before you reach out to a host, then it makes it a no-brainer. They don't want to have to go and figure out how you're going to fit into their show. You got to lay it out pretty specifically for them. And go listen to their show, give them a review, show up on their radar, give them some love, you know, then they'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that name when your email comes through.
Awesome, thank you. So we
Thanks.
have room for one more question, and Mr. Roger Killen, I see your hand up. You go right ahead, sir.
Hi, Roger.
Hello, Michelle. Do podcasting episodes always use an interview format?
No, not at all. And this is one thing I love about the podcasting space is that we see a lot of interviews, but it's wide open. And the funny thing is, even when you have a show that does a lot of interviews, my show does a lot of interviews because I enjoy talking to other people and I use it for networking. But some of my most listened to episodes are of me talking. So just remember that your audience actually does want to hear you. That's why they came for you. So it's great that you have guests, but also share some of you and share some of your own shows. And it's not just me, it's across all the board for all of my clients that are podcasting. They're always surprised when their most popular episodes are just them. I'm like, why are you surprised? They want to come to see you, right? So there's the interview style, there is solo shows, there are, where the host is being interviewed. There's tons of different styles of shows out there. But in the entrepreneurial space, the interview is pretty common. But like I said, the world's your oyster as far as creativity. Make it unique and make it something that's yours.
Thank you.
Awesome. That's all the time that we have for questions. If you have any more questions, please feel free to communicate with Michelle in the chat. Everyone will be saving the chat at the end of the event. So we're going to move into our facilitated masterminds here shortly. Thank you for all your valuable questions. It really helps everybody. So thank you for really stepping up for that. So the next stage is the mastermind facilitator breakout rooms. It'll give you an opportunity to share and connect and collaborate. We have a lot of people on the call today, so some of the rooms will have a facilitator in it to be the timekeeper. If you are in a room that there isn't a facilitator, please have someone there to step up to be the timekeeper. So you will have 1 minute to introduce yourself to this small group once again. And we will have 4 minutes to discuss ideas on either being a guest on a podcast, as we've talked about here, or if you're a host, your areas and topics of influence. So you can talk about what would be your topics as either of those positions. Also, something that you are an expert in or you're best known for, or what you love to talk about. Also, who would be your audience? And who do you think that you need to or want to connect with as a guest or as a host? And place into the Facebook group at the end of the event also anything that you'd like to share with us in regards to your podcast or being a guest. We are back. Was that amazing or what? Absolutely.
That was awesome.
Wasn't it good?
Yeah.
I know. And just make sure that you connect with some of these individuals. Go into the chat, look up their name, and also at the end of the event, they were asking me how to save the chat. So I'd like to just go over that again. So you go to the bottom of your screen to the chat, you open that up, and you'll see at the very bottom, file on the right-hand side. There's 3 little dots there. You just press on that and it will automatically save the chat to your computer. And that way you can have all the contact information for the people that have communicated with you during the event.
So we're going to thank our speaker, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for having me. It was amazing. What an awesome group this is, and so impressed with the way that you guys run this event. You guys are amazing.
Well, thank you, Michelle. And all of our facilitators, thank you. I know a few of you got moved around due to some Zoom issue, but we're happy everybody stepped up and worked in the groups well together. A reminder of Michelle's free gifts. I am pasting it in again shortly, this link, so you'll have it. Great resources. I've downloaded these already myself and started going through them last week. So very excited. And again, very generous offer for you to give our Grand Connection members a discount on your Getting Started program to get you launched on your first podcast. And thank you to some of our sponsors. First Canadian Barter Exchange. Barter's always good to get you going when you're just getting started. The Connected Women. And Mr. Taxes. And we had a contest last month for the people who invited the most guests to our event with Hillary. And these are our 5 winners. We want to give a wave. Who is here? Congratulations. We're going to be doing a deep dive with Hillary. And we have a new contest coming up. Our next speaker is going to be doing a deep dive as well.
Our next event will be on September 25th, so please mark your calendar for our next Grand Connection event is with Mike Wolf. He is super passionate. He's got an amazing energy and personality. He's been on CBS, NBC, lots of different platforms to share his purpose and his passion. And what he loves to do is help businesses to go from surviving to actually thriving in their business. He's called Freedom Business. So he travels just around the world speaking and educating people in the real estate market as well. And he believes that you should love what you do every single day to really enjoy life. I agree with him. So mark your calendars for September 25th. We have our real-time event, Real-Time Connections event on September the 10th from 7 p.m. to 8:15 p.m. And thank you everybody for joining the Grand Connection today and taking the time to be here. So go out, thrive, and enjoy. Thank you.